Could giant ichthyosaurs survive in Subnautica? Throughout this series, we've thrown tons of aquatic apex predators from Earth's ancient past into this iconic video game alien planet, watching how they navigate their strange new environment and evolve to match it. This episode focuses on ichthyosaurs, my favorite marine reptiles. Specifically the gigantic forms that ruled the Triassic seas. For our main taxon of the experiment, we're looking at Himalayasaurus tibetensis, a supercarnivore the size of a bus, and we'll also cover some Ichthyotitan-inspired speculative evolution. We'll calculate the success that Himalayasaurus will have in its new home, how it captures food to fill its hungry belly, and how its large size and powerful jaws will help it compete with the Hanger of Subnautica's native fauna. Special thanks to Mr. 42, who created all of the 3D models for this video's speculative evolutions. Make sure to check out his channel after. Let's look at the basic information we have on Himalayasaurus before yeeting it across the universe. It was discovered in Tibet in the 1970s and was thought to be a large shastasaurid ichthyosaur by most recent papers. One study suggested it could possibly be a cymbospondylid, giving it a more eel-like build, but more uncovered material demonstrated its shastasaurid affinities. Himalayasaurus seems to have been similar to a titanic, hypercarnivorous reptilian dolphin at 15 meters long and 30 to 35 tons, equipped with sharp, laterally compressed cutting teeth that fit into 2-meter-long jaws. It's fairly fragmentary, but we have enough skull, fin, rib, and vertebra material to have a pretty decent idea of its overall size and shape. It would have been an apex predator in the late Triassic, eating whatever it wanted, really, including other large ichthyosaurs. A 2025 study found that ichthyosaurs quickly evolved to be well suited to wide, open water areas and not only gave live birth, but grew very quickly. Those will be important traits to consider as we begin exploring its new home, Planet 4546b, the crater biome of the first Subnautica game. We're going to switch things up by not starting with the safe shallows biome, instead jumping to the underwater islands as our starter environment. They provide a location right next to a multitude of drastically different biomes, allowing the Himalayasaurus population to spread out early on to explore various niches. At 25 to 540 meters below the ocean surface, the underwater islands provide a tall water column with plenty of wiggle room for the gigantic apex predator we've introduced. Huge chunks of rock float in the water, suspended by gas-filled organisms known as floaters. Some of these islands are small, while others are the size of city blocks. The islands closer to the surface may prove to be useful nursing sites for the air-breathing, live-bearing ichthyosaurs whose young will need to fill their lungs soon after delivery. We know that Himalayasaurus' close relative Shonosaurus engaged this behavior, traveling to nurseries in huge groups of adults and giving birth, so it's not unreasonable to predict a similar pattern for this video's focus taxon. Baby Himalayasaurus could hide from predators in the larger islands' cave systems, or potentially outspeed the lumbering bone sharks given their sleek body shape. In terms of threats for the biome, bone sharks really are the priority. While faster swimmer than humans, they're likely slower than most ichthyosaurs thanks to their inefficient fin structure and heavy armor, but they're powerful carnivores at 9 meters long. Their jaws can harm metal vehicles like the sea moth and prawn suit, so if they were able to land a bite, would cause significant damage to even an adult Himalayasaurus. The armor is a significant deterrent to predators as well. Himalayasaurus had a strong bite, but their sharp teeth were better suited to cutting through flesh than crushing armor. They'd likely need to rely on their greater size and speed to harass any aggressive bone sharks, trying to stay out of the way of those jaws and convince them an attack isn't worth it. What about general food? Boomerangs are small, but might be good meals for newborns. Garryfish, hoopfish, spadefish, and peepers fall into that same category. Reefback leviathans are a quantum leap in body size at 60 meters long and likely over 1,000 tons. Their extremely thick armor keeps even the giant predatory leviathans of the alien planet at bay, and while their tentacles may be exposed, their sheer size might be enough to keep the ichthyosaurs from attempting an attack. Given the lack of worthwhile food and the presence of large, armored carnivores, the underwater islands doesn't make the cut, leading the ichthyosaurs to expand outwards. 5 other biomes contact the underwater islands, but not all of them are created equal when it comes to acting as a home for whale-sized, fast-swimming, open-water carnivores. The kelp forest is shallow, tangled, and lacking in easily accessible food sources. Stalkers are large enough to be worth eating and would be easy to overpower, but they often hide in the kelp and cave systems, making them impractical to hunt. Fortunately, the grassy plateaus are right on the border. Ranging from 40 to 200 meters deep, they have a large open area for big carnivores to comfortably roam in. Bloodgrass covers a vast area of rock formations and flat plains where sand sharks slam their faces into the ground repeatedly in hopes of finding a good meal. These bulky, armored animals with violent grins provide an immediate threat. Thankfully, they're likely slower than Himalayasaurus and have serious difficulty hunting animals that are more agile than they are. At about 4 meters long, they're squat and heavily built, with wide jaws, but have soft underbellies. They wouldn't pose significant threats to young Himalayasaurus, which are far faster, or to adults, which are more than 3 times their size. They might end up becoming prey themselves given their vulnerable undersides and ideal body mass. Biters are another eel-like creature that young ichthyosaurs might enjoy snacking on. Boomerangs, hoopfish, and peepers make another appearance and would again be great popcorn. Reginalds and spadefish round out the group, but still aren't large. It just highlights how hourglass-shaped Subnautica trophic pyramids are. There are a ton of tiny animals, barely any mesopredators, and then a slew of absurd giants. That makes things hard for adult Himalayasaurus, who would likely need to focus on eating sand sharks in order to make ends meet. The mushroom forests are on either side of their borders. Could be worth a look. The northeastern mushroom forest is 75 to 250 meters below the surface, compatible with a huge open water predator's natural range, with a large empty area above it. The benefits mostly end there. There's little to eat. The non-dangerous animals are limited to peepers, shoals, and spadefish, none of which are present in enough numbers to sustain a 30-ton carnivore with a decently fast metabolism. A Himalayasaurus could eat a mesmer if it tried, but the alien's hypnotic ability might put a damper on that effort. Jelly rays are incredibly toxic, bone sharks are heavily armored and aggressive, and amphiols are, well, they're even bigger than a fully grown Himalayasaurus at 20 meters. Add armor to that, along with their ability to generate massive bursts of electricity as offensive weapons, and there's no way they're getting unseated as the apex predator of the biome. The northwest mushroom forest is bigger, but not better. It has the same issues with bone sharks and amphiols, and even some overlap with Reaper Leviathan territory. If you're at all familiar with Subnautica, you'll know that Reapers are more kaiju than realistic aliens at 55 meters long. They use their roars as echolocation to find prey and then seize them with their mandibles, shaking them before engulfing them in their relatively small but still enormous jaws. They're also disturbingly fast for such enormous animals, capable of overtaking the seamoth, which without upgrades has a straight line speed of about 24 miles or 39 kilometers an hour. I'm comfortable with saying it's at least able to keep up with Himalayasaurus, and it has a chance of being notably faster. If a Reaper rolled up to the biome, the Himalayasaurus would need to hide inside the mushroom forest itself, which you can't do indefinitely as an air-breathing animal. Clearly, it's not worth it to spend much time here. Going east takes us to the bulb zone at 150 to 540 meters below sea level. The deeper portion of the biome is getting to territory where air-breathing pelagic superpredators might not be looking for apartments, but the shallow regions aren't out of the question by any means. Bulb bushes cover the seafloor, providing light and landmarks. The hook for this biome is missing, however. Boomerangs and eye-eyes aren't exactly large enough to support 15-meter predators, nor are peepers or shuttlebugs. Warpers can be found here, biomechanical lifeforms that can teleport, designed to kill animals infected with the Carabacterium. They could cause significant problems if any ichthyosaurs contract the disease. Mesmers might go after newborns, hypnotizing and then biting them. Old friends like bone sharks and amphiols fill the large predator niche and would pose issues, to say the least. The westbound ichthyosaur school might fare better in the dunes. I said that with a straight face, but anyone who's played this game knows that I just lied through my teeth. The dunes are a nightmare. Sure, there's a better menu than many biomes. Bladderfish, boomerangs, eye-eyes, garyfish, hoopfish, peepers, spadefish, and sand sharks provide lots of options for calorie-burning carnivores. But gasopods emit toxic clouds when provoked, warpers are teleporters and have claws that can slice through flesh, and there are 8 Reaper Leviathans. 1 is bad enough, but 8 would stop any Himalayasaurus population dead in its tracks. Time to go either north to the Blood Kelp Zone or south to the Sea Treader's Path. Let's go there first. With a depth of 170 to 425 meters, the Sea Treader's Path is a rocky biome dotted by corals. There's more food here than you'd expect. Boomerangs, eye-eyes, peepers, reginalds, hoopfish, and spadefish can be found in decent numbers, although there isn't anything in the size range that Himalayasaurus was adapted to hunt. The namesakes for the biome, sea treader leviathans, are heavily armored and absolutely gigantic, with a stabby proboscis 20 meters long and as thick as a large tree. Okay, north again. The Blood Kelp Zone reaches the northernmost point of the crater biome, and I'm so sorry, but it's incredibly dangerous. The non-dangerous food items are limited to spinefish and blighters, which is frankly pathetic. Amphiols lurk here in numbers that would make a sane Himalayasaurus swim the other direction. Warpers are always kind of a problem, at least once you get infected by the Carabacterium. Crab squid are enormous, electricity-blasting predators with slicing claws, each the size of a grown human. They can damage metal and are extremely fast in short bursts thanks to their siphon-like movement system. And, of course, there's the Ghost Leviathan. Well over 100 meters long, this gigantic hammerhead worm doesn't typically eat large organisms, but it's aggressive enough to kill you anyway. It's physically strong enough to shove around large submarines like bathtub toys, and comparable in speed to Reapers, making it likely capable of catching up to Himalayasaurus. The Triassic oceans were built different, but Planet 4546b has the advantage of being fictional. It can afford to be built a little bit more differenter. We're not done exploring yet. We go east to the mountains, where a few small animals like biters, hoopfish, boomerangs, reginalds, and peepers can provide sustenance. A few large animals, namely 7 reaper leviathans, make it a poor choice for a home, however, so we continue onward past the bulb zone into the crash zone. Apart from being covered in suspended dust and oozing with harmful radioactivity, there are 9 reapers here. No thank you. We continue south to the crag field, where hoopfish, boomerangs, and reginalds are edible enough. Mesmers and bone sharks are the only true threats. There's plenty of rock formations to hide in if you're little, and we see plenty of open water above the rocky areas. Again, the lack of food is the biggest problem, which drives us to the last biome, the Grand Reef. It's deep, at 90 to 620 meters, but comes with neat glowing spheres to light the way. We actually sell those on the Vividen Corporation World Chip if you're interested. Strange varieties of coral cover the biome, serving as colorful backdrops for edible small fish like eye-eyes, bladderfish, spadefish, peepers, and hoopfish. Threats include bone sharks, who we've come to know quite well, crab squid, which are more terrifying the more you look at them, warpers, our favorite teleporting lobster ninjas, and ghost leviathans, who really are just monsters. I mean, at least they don't have ampules on top of all of that, right? That was sarcasm, which we also sell on the World Chip. By popular demand, it now comes in dehydrated packets. As it turns out, life in the crater is rough for a mesopredator. It's also insane that I just called Himalayasaurus a mesopredator, considering it's one of the biggest carnivores in Earth's history. But that's the awkward space it finds itself in here. It's too big to reliably feed itself with the tiny fish that swarm everywhere, and too small to be able to simply eat the larger carnivores like bone sharks or to properly defend itself against reapers and ghost leviathans. I'll give it a 6 for home. The actual environment itself isn't too hostile, with plenty of swimming space and access to oxygen, although good breeding ground space is limited given the sheer density of shark-sized predators. Although adults wouldn't spend any real time in the safe shallows, perhaps they'd use it to deposit their young while they grow large enough to face the outside world. Hunger is a 5. As mentioned repeatedly, very few areas have animals big enough to be worth spending the energy to catch. Sand sharks will find themselves the unfortunate victims of the ichthyosaur invasion, providing barely enough food for a small, stable population, assuming they respawn in-game like most animals do. Hanger is, perhaps surprisingly, a 6. Yes, there are insurmountable obstacles like the kaiju-sized leviathans, but all you need to do is avoid them. Bone sharks are problematic, but not an existential threat, and ampules and crab squid seem to go after smaller prey than an adult Himalayasaurus would represent. Overall, we give the Tibetan giant a 5.6 out of 10. Considering a 5.0 is the minimum required to stay alive on a generational level, that's quite bad. But what if we reinterpreted the huge ichthyosaur as a Subnautica creature or 3? Using the power of Vividen Corporation's EvoCore engines, we're about to do just that. The following 3D renders were done by the phenomenal Mr. 42, whose channel is linked in the description. The first evolutionarily forced descendant we created is the bulky, large-jawed tread hunter. As its name implies, this huge 25-meter ichthyosaur specializes in taking down the enormous sea treader leviathans, following them on their constant migrations. Tread hunters have unusually wide and robust skulls, evolved to close around and snap the tree-trunk-thick sea treader legs. They swim in from behind, too quickly to fall victim to the dangerous proboscis, and then rip the leviathan's legs off. They then eat it while it struggles to move, cracking open the severed limbs and then moving on to the main body once it's no longer able to stab. The weaponry and size necessary to accomplish this also makes them formidable threats to other armored life like bone sharks. For the second variant, we decided to contribute to the environment by taking on the Carabacterium. Say hello to the Ichthyoplague, an incredibly clever and catchy name that one of the Vividen interns came up with. He's new. This ichthyosaur metabolizes the alien bacteria, absorbing it from the surrounding water via specialized organs like lymph nodes. It then pulls an Uno reverse on the disease, rewriting its DNA with special virus-like proteins. The altered version of the bacteria performs 2 functions in the ichthyoplague's body. 1, it generates and provides energy by processing sunlight mixed with carbon from the small animals ichthyoplagues eat in a process that mimics earth plant photosynthesis. 2, it copies itself and then disperses into the water, where it will then attack the original form of the Carabacterium when it encounters it. Our EvoCore engineers predict that the hostile disease will be eliminated from the planet within the next 8 to 10 business years. Our third mutated Himalayasaurus descendant is a callback to the distant ichthyosaur relative Hooposuchus. Once thought to possess baleen similar to Earth whales, Hooposuchus is now believed to have eaten small animals with a gulping mechanism similar to pelicans. This much larger and faster cloud eater engages in filter feeding on a grand scale. Cloud eaters live in the ecological dead zone along with ghost leviathans, which also feed on microorganisms. The difference is that cloud eaters are smaller and faster, enabling them to gulp up alien plankton and escape the aggression of the violent leviathans. They communicate with loud, piercing cries, alerting one another to the presence of ghost leviathans as well as large human vehicles. We keep an eye on the gradual evolution of their language, as they appear to be developing highly complex vocabularies and even grammar. This intelligence may prove useful in some of our other experiments. We also took the liberty of creating Leviathan inspired by the uncertain morphology and ecology of the gigantic yet fragmentary Shastasaurid Ichthyotitan-inspired, including the unofficially referred specimen known only as the Oust colossus. This animal was one of the most massive in the history of planet Earth, with the most recent peer-reviewed estimates for Ichthyotitan putting it in the 40 to 68 ton range. The Oust colossus, at least 30 meters long, is 88 to 150 tons. The Vividen Corporation is proud to introduce another denizen of the infamous Carnage Trench biome, a kaiju-dense area of planet 4546b heavily manipulated by our EvoCore engines. What could we do to one-up ourselves, we asked, after the fan-favorite awesome bro ecological disasters of the Ragnarok, Trench Maw, Deep Famine, Devilfish, Devil Crown, and Scarred Leviathans? What could fill the almost mythological role filled by online Earth paleo-nerd speculation about the ecology and morphology of the Oust colossus? And how could we create a monster while still leaving room for sequel escalation later? Behold, citizens, the glory of the Abyssal King Leviathan. It's everything that a salivating ichthyosaur fanboy could want. At 1,500 meters long and weighing an economically irresponsible 30 million tons, the Abyssal King roams the open water areas of the impractically enormous Carnage Trench biome. Its sleek shape makes it a faster swimmer than many of the other Carnage Trench monstrosities we've let loose, topping out at 70 miles an hour. And its broad, thickly built skull allows it to ram both prey and rivals with a force that can level towns. That impact often stuns the juvenile Devil Crown Leviathans and Devilfish Leviathans that they preferentially hunt. Those tentacles hold a great deal of protein after all, and the Abyssal King's jaws are designed to slice through armor and flesh alike to rip them apart. Rumors exist of an even larger specimen of this already absurd species, nicknamed the Abyssal Emperor. However, sightings of this creature are limited to blurry videos and eyewitness testimony, making them less than fully reliable. Volunteer slots are still open for our time displacement survival rate program, which you can sign up for at the most dangerous animals of each time period video. All you need to do is like, subscribe, and comment, and then corporation agents will be along shortly to begin your orientation for the jump to the Cambrian period. It's perfectly safe, we promise. And make sure to keep your eyes out for the upcoming next episode in this Video Game Meets Paleontology series, when the Dark Lord Second makes his dreaded appearance. If you needed a reminder, Mr. 42 is a speculative evolution channel who very kindly provided the 3D models of the Ichthyosaur variants for this project. So if you want to see more work like his, go subscribe so we can keep bringing him on. I'm the Vividen, Agent 42 to be specific, and I'll see you the next time I get the ever too human urge to turn ocean animals into unreasonable giants.
Tell Tyrant Prime that the Carnage Trench is proceeding as requested. We may need to engage in further terraforming to make sure we have room for the next EvoCore lifeform. Yes, I filled out the form, but I haven't gotten a response yet. No, I don't want to leave a message. That's your job, 34, so do it. I have a war to run.